looking. You're
I can.
All right. Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen appearing before House Financial Services Committee to talk about supervision of the central bank. She also commented on the chances of a December rate hike.
What the committee has been expecting is that the economy will continue to grow at a pace that's sufficient to generate further improvements in the labor market and to return inflation to our 2% target over the medium term. And if the incoming information supports that expectation, then our statement indicates that December would be a live possibility, but importantly, that we've made no decision about it.
Senator Pat Toomey is a member of the Budget, Finance, and Banking Committee. He joins us now with more on the credibility of the Fed. Good morning, Senator. Thank you.
Morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
I was yesterday kind of complaining that President Obama hasn't filled the position of vice chair to oversee, Dodd-Frank with the Fed. And that's bad that he hasn't, but it does give you an opportunity to get Chair Yellen to offer, comments on monetary policy. So in that regard, at least the transparency has actually increased because she's there for one reason, but you can ask her questions about the other reason. So that's good.
Joe, she comes before Congress a couple of times a year. She comes before more than one committee that I sit on. Unfortunately, it's the same story all the time with these sort of surprise little changes in nuance that sort of get the markets awfully jittery. Look, we've had this conversation before. I think this has been extremely dangerous, very irresponsible policy. They ought to have normalized interest rates years ago, literally years ago. And now we wonder, will it begin in December or not? I don't know that we know any more than we did before she testified. Like
all things Washington, there is a huge disparity on who agrees with you and who doesn't, Senator. Yeah. People say inflation's zero, and the rest of the world's in a very loose easing mode. Anytime we go against what they're doing, the dollar gets too strong. We can't export anything, and it slows the economy. So people don't agree. A lot of them don't agree with what you just said.
Oh, I know that, and I've got friends here in Congress who want to keep cheap money forever. Somehow it seems to me that many years after the crisis has passed, maintaining crisis-level interest rates is probably not still a good idea.
Right.
Negative real interest rates at the short end anyway.
Your friends want to do it at least to the next election. I mean,
absolutely. And, you can look at things today and say, okay, it's a fragile recovery, if we can call it that, very slow growth. The rest of the world's not doing great. Maybe now's not a time to raise interest rates. On the other hand, given that we do have at least growth, should we really have zero interest rates? I think we need to normalize, get these distortions worked out of the market so we can actually have stronger growth. I think the Fed's doing more harm than good.
Just think if there's even a scintilla of truth that the zero is what's causing the slow economy.
Oh, I think it's a very plausible case that the Fed is actually contributing.
It's just self-fulfilling. You don't raise, and then the economy stays weak, and then you don't raise. So,
and here's the other thing, Joe. Even the Chairman Yellen and the Chairman Bernanke before her acknowledged that this ultra-easy monetary policy, the most it can hope to do is to move forward economic activity that would be happening in the future anyway.
Right.
It's a timing shift. And what does that tell us about when they do eventually normalize? What about the future? It's terrible.
So the budget deal itself, once again, not everybody agrees one way or another on this. You're glad that it's done, or
I voted against it. Joe, look, we spend too much money in this town. I know that is not broadly agreed to either, but I'm convinced of it. We've got a $450 billion deficit. The only modicum of spending discipline we've had in years is the spending caps. And what did we do? We busted the spending caps. The offsets are not reductions in spending. The offsets are various other sources of revenue. And we gave the president unlimited borrowing authority when we already have a debt level that's, I think, dangerously high. So, no, I don't think it was a good deal.
What should Republicans, you're watching this play out. We're all watching this play out. It gets a little bit surreal at times, the nominating process for the Republican candidate. But do you have just overall comments on the way it's proceeding? You're probably not ready to endorse anyone today, although some senators have been doing that recently.
Yeah, a couple of my colleagues have. You know, I think this is still actually relatively early, right? We're a couple of months votes start getting cast, and so this field will winnow itself down. I'd like to see our candidates focus on economic growth and how we're going to get there. I'd like to have a rigorous debate about tax policy, regulatory policy, and monetary policy, because I think those things are holding us back today. I'm confident we'll have a candidate who will emerge who can become the next president.
So you think that how many of these guys could beat Hillary Clinton? All of them? Some of them? What kind of candidate would have the best chance of winning the presidency?
Yeah, I think the candidate that makes the most compelling case for economic growth and national security. I think those are the two front burner issues. They dwarf everything else. And I think there's a lot of the folks on this stage are capable of winning that general election.
So we also have a new speaker. You're happy about that? Does it mean tax reform can get done? We had Rob Portman on. He was funny yesterday. He said, I've got a bill that I sponsored, and he said, of all people, Chuck Schumer. And just the way he said it was kind of funny. It's like he was like, the irony of that alliance was not lost on him either. But is there any chance of that with Paul Ryan now in the speaker?
There's a chance. Paul Ryan gets the urgency of tax reform as well as anybody alive. He understands it extremely well. He wants to do it very much. But honestly, you know, House Republicans were not the obstacle to doing what we need to do on tax policy. We've got an administration that wants a massive tax increase as their condition for doing any really broad tax reform. That's why we've backed ourselves into this little corner of trying to narrowly focus on just the international piece, which arguably is the most egregiously flawed part. But it's hard to fix that in isolation. Not impossible, but hard. And I'm hoping that there'll be some Democrats who will actually agree to putting something on paper so we can actually work on the specifics. Honestly, it's going to be hard to do without presidential leadership, but we shouldn't give up, because this dynamic it just makes us so uncompetitive.
So they're going to go in December, aren't they, Senator?
I'm sorry, what's going to happen in December?
Yellen's going to go in December. They're going up. They're going up a quarter. She's crazy. She's nuts. She's insane. I mean, a quarter point.
Yeah,
I mean,
a quarter. How can we survive that?
I think she's going to do it. She's nuts.
Look, you know, I think the markets are giving it about a 50-50 probability. Is that right?
Well, we got two jobs reports between now and then. You know, it's never a good time to raise. That's the problem.
Well, exactly. We've been moving the goalposts for years now. So
we started at 6.5. Unemployment was supposed to hit 6.5 when we were starting.
Right.
But it's not. You know, they say, oh, it is good at 5.1, but it's not good at 5.1. I'm so confused now. I don't know if it's a good employment number or not.
Yeah, everybody's been confused. They've been moving the goalposts. I think their credibility is badly damaged, and they've backed themselves into a corner that's difficult to get out of. They ought to just start normalizing.
Yeah. While Ben Bernanke takes a victory lap with this, I wonder what, you know, the IMF, he's making a speech for them. What do you think they're paying him? They can print money, right? So probably $1 million to hear to sell more books. Anyway, Senator, thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay.
Coming up, choppy seas for the shipping industry. We're going to